asked me and I said, "Oh, I'm reading a flat earth theory." And it dawned into an entire conversation. He's like, why are you reading a flat earth theory? And I'm like, because somebody messaged me on Connect about it and they included some links and I'm just reading them. I don't know. I'm just an interested person. No matter what, if there's a bunch of people that believe something, I now want to know what it is that they believe.
Now, Candace Owens is not a flat earther, but what she's going to be talking about here is that we take scientific findings on faith. We believe the people who told them to us. And so she'll say, I left the cult of science. So she will implicitly talk about how science can be a kind of religion, and we want to make explicit what she's talking about in relations to faith and science and religion. Here's Candace Owens.
He pushed me on this, and he was talking about the earth curvature and science, and I said to him, listen, I'm not a flat earther. I'm not a round earther. Actually, what I am is I am somebody who has left the cult of science. I have left the mega church of science.
She has left the cult of science. So first of all, we have to define what science is. If you take it from the Latin, it's any form of certain knowledge. The problem is materialist scientists today take the only certain knowledge to come from empirical evidence, so the natural world around them. The problem with that statement is it's self-refuting, because that statement, that the only true and certain knowledge is that which we can observe with our senses, is not itself an observable statement. It's a philosophical one. And so scientism, this understanding that science is the only body of knowledge that we can trust, and it comes from empirical observation, is itself self-refuting. So she's denying that, first of all, but now she's going to talk about how science can be a kind of faith. So here's Candace.
Because what I have now realized is that science, what it is actually, if you think about it, is a pagan faith.
Science is a pagan faith. What does she mean by that? First of all, what is faith? Think about your birthday. You don't remember, you can't logically prove it, yet I bet you've never doubted the day on which you were born, your birthday. Yet we take it almost entirely on the testimony of witnesses. This is a natural kind of faith. Pagan faith, in the sense that I believe Candace is saying, it doesn't acknowledge God or the true God. Even science itself, scientists have to be a kind of believer. They believe in those two fundamental philosophical principles which allow science to begin. The first is called the principle of non-contradiction. The second is called the principle of sufficient reason. Neither of them can be demonstrably proved because they're at the bottom of all demonstrations. They have to be believed. So she's saying here, test the scientific knowledge that you're receiving from these witnesses. And she's going to give an example of where accepting the testimony of scientists has not worked out. Here's that example.
I'm going to give you an example of exactly what it is I'm talking about in case you think you disagree. A woman tweeted this. You may have seen me retweet this over the weekend. Her name is Beth. She wrote this. Years ago, I was assured that an IUD was safe, effective, and could be removed at any point if I decided on having more children. It was FDA approved, after all. Ovarian cysts, surgery, infections, a week in the hospital, and infertility. That was what they meant by safe and effective. And this really hit home for me, and I felt tremendously compassionate for her because I'm obviously of the baby-making age, and so many of my friends are similarly going through fertility issues and similarly realizing that the birth control that they have been given has contributed to that in some way. People that have pelvic inflammatory disease because of the IUD device being in them for decades. And for those of you that are not aware of what that is, it's literally a copper device that is inserted into a woman to make it so that she does not become pregnant. It's birth control, and yes, it is marketed as both safe and effective. All the best stuff, by the way, is marketed as safe and effective. And I was saying to my husband how it's become such a difficult topic to talk about because I am compassionate for my friends that are going through this. But then there's another side of me that is just amazed, confounded. And I genuinely ask this question. I say, how could any person get to a point where a doctor tells them that putting something that is copper inside of them for a long period of time is perfectly safe and effective and will have no long-term side effects?
So who can we trust? And so Candace Owens is going to give us two things. There's actually one authority we can trust, understood in two different ways. The first she calls trusting your gut. What that is the natural law. So that is the nature of things and how they're ordered, how they ought to operate, that we can understand by reason alone. So for example, that man mankind is male and female, that abortion's wrong. These are things that can be understood by your gut, she'll say. This is the divine law, but understood naturally by our intellect. The second thing we can trust, she'll call the Holy Spirit, the third person of the Trinity. That's the revealed law. So the revelation of God as interpreted by God, which Candace, as a Catholic, she has in the Catholic Church. This is the one authority that we can trust in both ways, both in a natural sense, through trusting your gut, the natural law, as well as the revealed law, that which God has revealed through Jesus Christ and then interpreted through his Catholic Church. Let's give that last word here to Candace.
Without that person being told the information, just having something that comes online inside, something spiritual, maybe as opposed to referring to it as your gut instinct, we should refer to it as the Holy Spirit. And so it takes you and goes, yeah, no, that actually makes no sense. I have